Hi everybody, you know who. Hi everybody, yeah, see that? Narcissus and Goldmund. I'm going to say Narcisse during this video because Narcissus, I'm not. Extra special shout out to my actual real life friend, Bernardo, that's his handle, actual author, actual human being, was hounding me like, have you read Narcissus and Goldmund? You've got to read Narcissus and Goldmund. This will change your life, or whatever he said. We ended up having a very colorful exchange over Instagram over this book. You know who Herman Hesse is. He's a German author, born in 1877. This was published in 1930. At that time, the Nazi Party was like the second largest party in Germany. He's one of those authors where like every book is something spiritual, everything is always a balance between light and dark. That's his whole deal. So this book is just, I'm not gonna say it's more of the same, but I got the same feeling. And this is the third book of his I've read, and every book of his that I read, after a few pages, I'm like, oh, this is me. This is about me. This story is about me. I'm this guy. Narcissus and Goldmund is essentially about these two men in a cloister. They're monks. Narcisse, as a youngling, you could tell he was going places. He's very smart, cerebral, almost to the point of arrogance, but in such a way that's so like veiled that you'd have to be really perceptive in humans to see what brand of arrogance is not the everyday I'm so great, you know, bravado that he has, you know. Goldmund is dropped off by his dad. He's a few years younger than Narcisse, and he's dropped off by his dad because he wants him to grow up to be a good, upstanding Christian and not whatever his mother was. And so he goes over to, he grows up and he's like rambunctious, good-spirited kid. Everyone loves him. But he's not going to be a monk. He's not going to be a learned man, no matter how pious he is in his like will. It's not inside it's not his real soul expression. So Narcisse tells him that, teaches him that even, and this story is his worldly life as he goes through his travels, what it's like being a vagrant in medieval Germany. Let's get to what happens. So skip over here if you don't want to hear all the nonsense about what happens in this book, and just hear what I want, how I felt and stuff, which is another kind of spoiler. Why would you be here? You know how I do things. Okay, Narcisse, he can kind of like see souls, like he can read people, you know, like not like, you know, chiromancy or something. He knows your soul by looking at you. That's like a spiritual gift of his. So there's clearly some deep, like a deep metaphysical, like karmic thing inside of him that he follows through his life. And he's like a mental person, a learned person. His thoughts are abstract, kind of like pure mathematics. How mathematics in practice, you see, you have, I'll say it like this. In mathematics, when you see the Arabic numeral 3, you probably already have a bit of additive reasoning in your brain, so you already know that that Arabic numeral 3 represents 3 individual things, right? You don't have to look at the Arabic numeral 3 and think, oh, that's 1, 2, 3. You already know that that's 3. So he, in a sense, does the same thing. That's how he sees kind of the world. He tries to break it down to like true forms in the Platonic sense. And that's like his spiritual like direction, his calling. Goldmund admires that in Narcisse and wants to be like him. They kind of love each other. They have a really weird relationship because they're real close. Narcisse at this point is already a teacher. Goldmund is like his favorite student, and he's already like kind of guiding Goldmund when he's not supposed to, right? It's not his place. But he's guiding Goldmund because he sees like, this isn't the place for you, and I love you, I love this kid. Like, it's weird to him that he loves him because that's not his world, you know. It kind of knocks him off his square a bit. When he's talking to Goldmund, trying to like coax him to really be himself and not what he wants to be, right? Not just what he sees. He brings up kind of in an offhanded way, beside the point almost, how he's forgotten about his mother, and that sparks like a great sickness in him. Like it manifests as like a physical sickness. He's in great pain, trying to uncover like this vague memory of this blonde woman that just loves him so much. And when he recognizes that this mother side of him has all this passion, all of this wild will that he wants to follow, that he needs to follow, and that's what Narcissus opened up in him, and in doing so kind of ended that relationship between the two, the love. So he had to go on and let him go. Goldmund, he already at this point had snuck out with some other kids to go to the village, which is just, you know, drinking, right? Drinking late at night, and when he leaves, this young girl comes in and was like, essentially like, and that bothered him deeply because he wants to be a good boy, but that's not what he is. I'm gonna skip most of it, okay? It's just a guy being homeless. That's the whole book. You wanna read about a homeless guy? Here you go. But it's like traveling, meeting people, sleeping with different women, and just being forever unsettled, you know? No one will stay with him. No one does stay with him. Everyone dies or goes to do some other thing because they all want different things from their life, and he's only just following this wildness. And other people are grasping for stability. Not so much a reason to live, but like security in their world, which, you know, doesn't exist. I don't think I'm the first one to tell you that. But life is like hard, but beautiful. You know, it's cold, but like warm. You know, like everything is in flux. And I would almost say that he notices the change in himself when he's in this depression of experiencing hardship, of having seemingly no joy, no place in the world, and suddenly a woman comes and this lust for life just blooms, and the experience of being with this woman just erases all the hardship, even just for a moment. And in that moment, he's so absorbed in that moment, just as deeply as he was in his hardship. And it's that absolute rock steady attention on the moment that is his gift, which allows him to really not only enjoy life, but record it in shape. I would say even record the feeling, record the experience in his, like beneath his senses, in his soul. He expresses that through recreation of his shapes, because eventually he becomes an artist. He sees, after some later travel of, you know, crazy nonsense, I'm not going to spoil all the tidbits, he sees a Madonna statue in a church, and it has this like sweet beauty and pain in his face that he can read on it. And it moves him so much, he's like, I want to do that. Like, I want to be able to express that, because I feel these things, and this guy, whoever this guy is, has expressed these things that I feel. Who did this, he asked the guy. He's like, oh, some cat, Master Niklaus up in the Bishop City. You want to go see him? He's about a bus ride away, right? Like a day traveling by horse, but he's on foot, right? So he finally gets to the Bishop City. He sees the guy, and he's like, all right, man, come in the back. I'll give you some paper and a pencil, and you sketch something, and I see it, and we'll go from there. I mean, so he sketches, I forgot what he sketched, you know, somebody, maybe some girl or something. And Nicholas looks at it, says nothing, just stares at it, goes and eats, says nothing to the cat. And he comes back, he's like, all right, man, you good. You know what I'm saying? So he ends up working for him, not directly, but Nicholas essentially gives him an outlet to express himself. He's like spending his days like kind of working intermittently whenever the passion strikes him. He doesn't really have the discipline like Nicholas has to really sit down and just craft because you can, because that's what you do out of duty. What he ends up doing that's a big deal, his big work, is a statue of St. John. It's Narcissus. He sculpts Narcissus from memory, and it's St. John. You know how it goes. Nicholas is super impressed. He tells him, like, I could never create something like you created here. I could never do it. I'm gonna get you in front of the guild, and they're gonna make you a master like me. We're gonna set you up. You're gonna be good. You know, essentially, like, you know, you're also gonna marry my daughter. You're gonna move in with like everything. Like his whole life is gonna be set up. He's gonna be like everyone else, who's a homesteader. You know, a city dweller. But inside, the passion in him was already spent. He said everything he wants to say, and if he goes on living that life of just recreating art, just, you know, making little stuff for people, little sculptures for people's hallways. There won't be passion, just skill, and it won't be fulfilling for him. He has to like adhere to that wild call inside of him. He tells the master, "Thanks, but no thanks, I can't do it." And the master is crushed at this. He says, "Yeah, I accept that, but never come back here again." He shakes his hand very briskly and forces him to leave before he says anything he would regret. The other big thing that happens is the Black Plague is going through Germany here, and he sees, and he's no fear of the plague, no fear of death in that way, I would say. The person that he's with is super scared. Everyone around him is incredibly scared, and fear has made them crazy. They're looting, they're burning each other, they're burning Jews, they're burning anyone with money. They're taking people who are not even dead yet and just sending them into the mass graves because, I mean, whatever, right? There's a girl, I think her name is Len or something, and her family has died, and he and his traveling buddy, who I forget, he courts Len, and she ends up asking all these questions. What are we gonna do when the plague is over? She wants stability, right? And he's like, yeah, we're not gonna have that. That's never gonna happen. But if you can't deal with that fact, it can end right now if you like. So how about you just roll with things as they are, or we torch everything. She dies, like she gets attacked / rape attempt by some guy with the plague, and he bites her like a zombie. So she dies of plague, and he's super pissed, and the young boy runs off. He burns her body, and it's just crushed again. He goes around seeing more people being burned, more Jews being burned, and beautiful women. A girl named Rebecca is a Jewish girl who her whole family was burned, and he tries to sleep with her, and she does not take kindly to that because she is not interested in living anymore. And he can see it in her eyes, like, oh, it's not so much that she wants to die, it's just like she's resigned herself to it. She might not kill herself, but she's not going to kick and scream to stay alive. When his picture book of his passion and grief is full again, full of people, he travels back to see Nicholas because he wants to, maybe make amends. He just wants to work, maybe leave something behind instead of having wasted his entire youth just walking from here to there, loving and living and starving and thriving and whatever is left in between all of that. And so he finally gets to the bishop's city and finds that his master has died. His beautiful young daughter has grown ugly and fearful through the plague. But the people next door, the landlords, know him and want to give him a place to live, and work, right? But again, he's in that malaise of just like, gosh, why anything, why live? And then he sees the Count's mistress. The Count runs the city now, and the Count's mistress is riding around, and he finally has something to live for, eh? On the turn of a heel, he's like, all right, I'll shave and I'll conquer this girl, and that'll give me something to do for the next week, right? Something to live for the next week. So he does that, and he does conquer her. He risks his life entering the castle to get to her. He ends up returning to the castle for another night, and this time he gets caught and sentenced to death under the guise of like stealing, because he was kind of sharp enough to like not like put her business out there like he was invited back. He's stealing and stuff. So he's in a black cell trying to deal with the fact that he has to say goodbye to everything. He can never go back to wandering, never go back to women, no food, no air, no trees, no anything. There's gonna be nothing left. And he has to go. They're forcing him to go. And he fights that tooth and nail, and he decides, like, I'm not going to just go to the gallows. He decides, he finds a way to saw the freaking cuffs off. What do you call them things? Rope? Yeah. He saws the rope off, and it's like, all right, when the priest comes down, if he doesn't work with me to try to get me off, I'm gonna kill him, take his robe, and skedaddle out of here. I'm sure they'll buy me some time. And so the priest walks in to give him his last rites, and who is it? It's Narcissus. He's now Abbot John. And he's like, yeah, I came on a diplomatic mission, and when I saw you last night, I made concessions to take you with me, so we going home, bro. After really confessing like the whole of his life to him, that frees Goldmund to express himself through art, and he starts like carving pieces of his life for the cloister, which is already full of a wonderful beauty that he missed as a kid, but now having lived a life and been an artist, he sees these old sculptures and it's just like, oh, I could never do that. Whoever did that trumps anyone I've ever met. So Narcissus sees these sculptures and it leaves him like bewitched. Goldmund, through his personal experience, his being there with God's beauty in the created world, that experience he recreates through these physical recreations of God's own work. And Narcissus, the same way he looks at people and can see the soul, he looks at these works and sees the experience of God's love and beauty in the world. And he realizes experiencing that through art is a more succinct expression of God's beauty than he could do with his logic, with his mind, with the abstractness. And so he realizes that his path is his path, but it might not be the best path. That's, some of that arrogance, yeah? Goldmund leaves again because the well was dry. He wants more adventure, so he sets off, and in a few months he comes back significantly older, sicker. Something happened when he went out there. He fell, broke his ribs, and just was sick, but didn't want to come back because he just left, right? So, and what's more, he went to go back to the mistress, the count's mistress, and she rejected him because he was, old and ugly. And so all this showed Goldmund that his lust for life would not be reflected back to him like they would when he was younger. There's essentially nothing more that the world is willing to give him that he wants. So he accepts death more smoothly because he couldn't accept it when Narcissus saved him. Narcissus confesses that he really loves Goldmund.
I love you.
Goldmund tells him right? Goldmund tells Narcissus about the mother, how the mother is going to, is plucking at his heart, calling him back home. He wonders how Narcissus can die as he has no mother. How can he die? Which, again shakes Narcissus, and the book ends on that, there being no answer to that question at the end. I gave this read 3 3/4 stars, because this book is all just freaking prose stuff happening to people, right? And it's pretty and everything. It's pretty words on a page, but it's just words, and it's I wasn't chewing on the prose. I'll put it that way. The things that I chewed on in this book when I was finished was some things that Narcissus said about prayer, how prayer should be done, not questioning the validity of it, but pray like you are when you play the lute. You're not playing the lute wondering, why am I doing this? You're just trying to execute the performance. So do it the same way. Say each word with the feeling that should be there. The feeling that you need when you pray. I think about that a lot. I came at this book kind of sideways because I was expecting for some reason that both of these characters would find God in their respective paths, and when it's over, they both took leaps forward karmically, but did either of them reach apotheosis? I think not. That's not what the book was going to do. You know what I'm saying? I came at this book expecting something that wasn't there, and I don't know why. I guess because when I read freaking Siddhartha, that's how Siddhartha ends. I don't know, I didn't feel like there was so much focus on the spirituality of it, I think. But I think that was maybe my focus. Because he's going through just betting these different girls, and I understand that there's a sense of poetry about him, and this idea that there's this saintliness that comes from just kind of being present in the world and engaging with it as it is completely. But when it's just him, trying to bed those 2 girls at one time, it's not like he and I aren't singing the same thing.
I want to rock your body. And then in parentheses it says to the break of dawn.
You know what I'm saying? It's not higher thought at all. It's just the depth of feeling. And I wasn't ready to accept the fact that depth of feeling has value the same way that depth of thought has. So I guess I experienced this more as a reluctant Narcissus than as a Goldmund character. How'd I know that already? This book was also written in published in 1930, and there's a whole section about Jews being burned, and Bro asked Narcissus, like, would you burn Jews? No, of course not. He's like, will you sit by while Jews are being burned? Would you just let that happen? Of course I would. You let it happen. Did you do anything to stop it? Right, exactly. And I was thinking, like, yo, my dude legit saw the future right here. And I mean, like, I've known a fair amount of, like, saintly people, and when they drop hints, it's like that. Like, you can ignore it at the time and just not even friggin' think that they're saying anything that didn't come right out of their ass or whatever. But in hindsight, it hits like brass knuckles, the things they say to you, right? When you remember it, and you're like, oh crap, I really should have took their advice. Why didn't they tell me with more fervor, right? You know, if I wasn't gonna listen then, like, would hammering it in have worked? You know what I mean? But I don't know how on the way to the Holocaust they were in 1930 for real, so maybe it's not as amazing as I think it is, but I'm just putting that out there. Yeah, also another thing is like the way that he wrote about like homelessness a lot, like this prose about homelessness that struck me as weird. Just like, you really trying to make that like beautiful, like rambling about having no ambition because you're too busy trying to like survive and find some kind of comfort to really like go for anything further. Like, you're not going real high on Maslow's hierarchy of needs if you're like focused on staying warm. You know what I'm saying? That again is like me kind of asking the book to be different from what it is, because I guess it wants you to be there with Goldmund while he's doing his friggin' like vagrant life thing. But I was like, I'm trying not to do that, right? I didn't respect Goldmund, but it's clear that Herman Hesse does. It kind of felt like watching Holden waste his life, or his weekend anyway, in New York, except Salinger has zero respect for Holden. You can tell, you can tell he has no respect for Holden. Hesse has respect for Goldmund. So at the end, Goldmund expresses his anger at the uselessness of life to Narcissus. And I don't feel the same way about life that Goldmund does, but I have the same kind of anger inside of me from what I've experienced in life. Not the same reason, but the same feeling behind it. I'm not even sure if I can really express it intelligently. It's just like depressing the way life is, you know? I didn't realize that until I read that, and I was like, yeah, I feel like this guy, but not for that reason, but for other reasons. I feel like this guy right now. Yeah, I think that's it on me. I'm gonna say what I need to say. Thanks again, Nardo, for that. If you have a book, if you have a book that you want me to read, you know where I'm at. I'm in the comments section. I'm at Thalo Gray everywhere. I have a Discord channel, server, whatever. It's just the 5 of us right now, but that's where I am all the time. I guess I'm done here. All right, I'll be done.
You know what the most dangerous thing in America is, right?